Welcome, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the High Frequency Kicks podcast, available on YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You good?
We can just start.
Can
Ready,
we?
set, go.
Oh, it's scary. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the second episode of the High Frequency Kicks podcast. Again, my name is Thomas.
I'm Sam.
And today we're talking, Sam, you wanted to talk today. You had the idea of talking about our perspectives as both students and as teachers. So why don't this is your idea for the day, so why don't you start us off?
Yeah, because it's like, I figured that's two things we both have in common in the martial arts world, and that's how we kind of have been interacting over the past few years, both as teachers at Iron Fist, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then obviously we both started as students. I don't know, maybe let's start there.
1 second, I need to move that out of the way.
Yeah, what is that?
The box. 1 sec.
I can see your box. He doesn't know, but I'm going to leave all this in. Good. I'm glad you got your box off camera.
Thanks. Yeah. So you were talking about starting out as students and developing from there into becoming teachers and our perspectives from doing that, I assume.
Yeah. And also maybe even if we have time, we can talk about like teachers that we've had. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, maybe I'll start with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because as we mentioned last time, we both do different kinds of martial arts, and our styles are very mixed. Because that's Sunny, our main instructor, is also very mixed. So as are we, as a result. Yeah, so I just think it's just kind of interesting having those different teachers over the years, different perspectives through seminars and whatnot, and even like YouTube, just having those different perspectives on techniques and different kinds of fighting styles that we can kind of pull parts from to make our own individual styles and like things that we like to incorporate into our training and things that work for each person as an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, like, as far as the student element of that, of being a student, that's one of the things that I do love is, despite being in this for 20 some odd years and studying it fairly regularly, like almost every day, and doing something and looking up something, there's always something more, and I love that sense of finding a new teacher, finding a new seminar that's from someone I've never learned from, or who's teaching something that something I've never done, a new style or whatever it might be, or maybe it's something that I have done, and a style that I do train regularly, but they're teaching a different aspect or a different way. There's a different way of teaching it from that person, and that sense of like, being able to walk in there as brand new student again, that I actually really love about this.
Yeah, I noticed, like, I remember there's this one, I can't remember the technique, unfortunately, but I remember we were doing a seminar where we had a different instructor come to our school to teach us some stuff, and completely explained this one technique that we do all the time in a completely different way, and it just felt like a brand new thing, even though I was, as far as that particular concept, I was just kind of, cocky about it, like, oh, I've done that 100 times, blah blah blah. And yeah, he just came in and had a completely different point of view, or just way of explaining it, that really helped up my game in that one little area. Yeah, so I think that's pretty neat when that kind of thing happens.
Yeah, I love it. I love what you were saying there a second ago about taking the different parts and doing all the different studies of different teachers and different styles and techniques, and taking the things that work for you and mix them together to make your own style is very it's very reminiscent of one of Bruce Lee's quotes, where he talks about you discard what's unnecessary, keep what's genuinely you, I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the whole quote off the top of my head, so I'm sure people will get mad at me for that later. But I don't remember the whole thing off the top of my head. Sorry.
I'm already mad at you.
You always are. That's fine.
I'm gonna troll you on this video later.
Yeah. I'm expecting it. Don't worry.
Booyah.
But it's it's that mentality, and it's really cool to see that, and even with people that I love seeing that individuality from people that train the same thing with, and you can train the same thing with the same teachers, or you can train the same thing with different teachers, and although you technically know the same art and the same style, it can look completely different with two different people. One good example is a mutual friend of ours, Andrew, who I've trained with for years. I'm not sure how long.
Wait. Let me just correct you. He's not my friend. Okay, keep going. We love Andrew. Okay, keep going.
I don't think he watches this at the moment, so he won't see that for a while.
Let's say more stuff about him and see if he does watch it.
We'll just keep talking trash until he finally watches this and calls us out on it.
Exactly.
I'm all for that. But yeah, like you look at Andrew and myself, and think about him and I, us. We've done a lot of the same seminars. He and I.
There it is.
Yeah, he and I. That one works well. I like that. But there's been a lot of times like we've both traveled to the same places, done the same seminars together. More often than not, there's a couple times where we go to seminars that kind of have mini seminars inside of them, and we tend to end up more or less the same ones, or we have training partners, again that as well, that come with us that are more experienced. Corinne, who's one of our training partners, who used to be our teacher, that's now just a training partner with us as we've grown over the years. She tends to kind of be like our school mother, if that's I think that's accurate.
Oh yeah, or I guess I like to think of her as the puppet master.
Yeah, she pulls a lot of strings behind the scenes there.
Yeah.
But there's times when there's kind of like a sign in for certain little mini seminars necessary, and we just get our list of where we're going, and she'd be like, "Oh, I signed you guys up for this one because I thought you'd like it," and she's right. Like, every time she's like, "Yeah, no, we both want this one. That's good." But we end up in the same ones a lot. But you watch he and I do the same things, and Andrew and I have very different body types. I'm very tall. I'm very lanky. Andrew is average height. He's not short by any means, but he's average height, whereas I'm definitely not. He's stocky. We have we're built very differently. So we do the same forms or the same techniques. It doesn't look the same, even though we've done this with the same instructors. And then you look at guys that study the same styles with different instructors, and it's even a greater difference. And that's very interesting to me, how you can constantly be learning and evolving and taking those the parts that work for you and make the same thing as someone else be unique and be your own. Right,
exactly. Which is true of any kind of craft, really.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so it definitely translates into martial arts practice, which is really cool. Especially because, like you said, you need to work with your body type, play to your strengths. Yeah, all that good stuff. Like for me, I like to hold on to those techniques that are very close range because I'm small. I want to be able to fight my best in close quarter combat because of my size. Yeah. So those are the things that I retain from different instructors, different ways of bettering my game from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And even for myself, I've done a lot of training with, again, we've trained together a lot. So I've done a lot of training with teachers that do the close quarters, so I'm comfortable with it. But again, I'm 6'4", and I'm a very, lanky guy. Right? I got, these long arms and everything. So for me,
really,
yeah. So, to illustrate that point, I can do the close quarters, and I've studied it, and it's definitely got a very interesting flow to it, and I don't dislike it by any means. It's a lot of fun, but for me, definitely being a little further back, gives me that sense of comfort, because for my size, even from my shoulder to my elbow is a decent range, just because of that build that I have. And so, if I'm in too close, I tend to lose the ability to do anything. Whereas, a different body type like yourself, where you're, a bit shorter than I am.
Just a bit.
Just a bit. Like
just slightly.
3 inches, maybe.
3 feet, more like.
But, in that similar context to where I'm uncomfortable and unable to move, you're the opposite, where you're perfectly capable of moving and more comfortable. But on the flip side of that coin, I do find value in training the things where you're uncomfortable, and training the styles that, again, another about 80% of my examples and stories are going to be with me and Andrew, by the way. But
Thomas has no other friends.
I don't. It's like Andrew, you, and my wife.
He's bribing me to be here.
Yeah. There's money involved. But again, one of the examples of training something outside your comfort zone, and being at least, you don't have to necessarily be the most comfortable with it. Like, you're not going to be the most comfortable at longer range like I am, and I'm not going to be the most comfortable at close range. But being able to train it, and an example of that I've always found really, really funny, of doing that until you're good at it, because it's a good habit to do, and it's a good thing to train, is, again, training for seminars with Andrew and a bunch of masters and grandmasters in Hawaii. And we're doing some kung fu forms, and we're doing a form that is northern style kung fu, northern style Shaolin, which northern style is very situated to my body type. It's very long and graceful and elegant, whereas southern style martial arts is very sturdy and grounded and strong. So Andrew and I trained together. We both trained northern and southern style, and we're doing a northern style form. And one of the grandmasters was just talking to us, talking about the histories and about those elements of it, of northern style being situated to me and southern style to Andrew. And he was just commenting on that, saying that because of that, Andrew will typically have a harder time with things like northern style. And then we do the form, and it's a whole bunch of us doing the form together and practicing. And we take a water break at one point. And this older grandmaster stands up from where he was sitting and walks over to Andrew and I, and says, I just need to apologize for a moment, and looks at Andrew. You are perfectly capable of doing that form just as well as anyone else, apparently. And Andrew had a good laugh at that, and just said, he obviously thanked the grandmaster and pointed out that while he's able to do it quite well, that's due to a tremendous amount of training and practice and exercise, and the blood, sweat, and tears, as we refer to it. But it's still, his strength is going to be southern style, and it will never be my strength. I will never have the power that Andrew can output.
Yeah, he has such a natural ability to, like, that base strength there. That comes from, like, really good grounding and that kind of thing.
He's excellent at grounding.
Yeah, I've definitely, like, bounced my body off of him trying to knock him over, and just like, bah. That's
been our example in class of, like, he and I, when we teach classes together, it's been a good example of, like, trying to teach people, grounding themselves and strong base. And when he really wants to, I've given all I can at a good kick towards him and not moved him.
This is actually, he knows what he's doing. This is a good example, actually, of how even your fellow students can be great teachers.
Absolutely.
I even know, like, our black belt group is very independent in our classes. Like, it's not usually a typical class situation, and we like come up with our curriculum and then practice it and go back and talk to each other about, like, our individual experiences, so that you can learn off of each other, and not just always from someone higher ranking. Yeah, so
Well, there's everyone's got their own different um, everyone's got a different way of looking at things and different way of solving problems. And if I one person explaining something to me is just not jiving, it's kind of like you're saying before with that one master that came in for a seminar, and he explained something that just clicked for you, and just his way of seeing it and his way of saying it. It's one of the things that I like about that kind of free form way of doing class and training with others is like, I don't have to go to this specific person. Our instructor, Master Sunny, has never had that mindset of like, oh no, you have to come to me for answers. It's always been like, ask me, sure, but ask anyone, or
yeah, if anything, he's like, figure it out.
Figure it out on your own. There's been a lot of times of like going to him and his answer has been like, I don't know, look it up and tell me.
He's more about like giving us the tools a lot of the time to figure it out on our own, rather than, which is like what a good parent does, I guess.
Yeah, parent and teachers. I mean, if you're just doing handouts, right? It's hard to learn from that in that scenario. Whereas if I give you the tools and show you how the tools work, and then say, okay, this is how the tools, this is how they work. Now I want you to do this thing here. Find the middle part. That's the best, one of the best ways to learn. And yeah, he does that. And yeah, having that group collective class where it's like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to try it on Peter. Peter has one body type. Can I do this to him? Okay, well, let's hear him explain it to me. Okay, I'm still not quite clicking. Let me go ask Sam. Sam's different again. And you keep doing that until something with one of my partners, something they say or something about the way their body moves, clicks it for me. And I say, okay, now I understand what I'm doing. Now this makes sense. And that, I think, is very important to, we're talking about being students and teachers, and I try to put student above teacher. Right? In as what I am. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like teacher's just the thing that comes along with it. Eventually. Even early on, it's like as soon as you're training with someone your same rank or lower in class, like as far back as yellow belt days, you're already teaching a fellow student some like stuff that you already know.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just something that is inevitable. You just fall into it. Being the teacher is good training at the same time, because I know I never forget, because I teach regular classes, I never forget our forms, our regular ones at Iron Fist. I never forget them. Like a lot of other people, like I notice, need to refresh, but like I just cannot forget them because I'm constantly teaching someone else.
I always encourage someone teaching to never undervalue or underestimate the value of learning from the person you're teaching, right? Like you may be the senior, you might be the teacher in a scenario, but it's a two-way street. There's always learning going on both sides and teaching going on both sides. And especially as a new teacher learning to teach, your students unknowingly are teaching you how to teach. And that was
right.
That one was it took me a little while for that to click, but that's a powerful lesson. And again, our instructor, I don't remember how he got you teaching. For me, it was a shock to the system, because I gradually got into teaching adults, and I was like a 19, 20-year-old, so teaching adults was comfortable for me. And I remember
you mean like regular class, like scheduled teaching class,
scheduled adult classes, yeah.
Okay.
So teaching the adult classes that were scheduled and such and that, that became a gradual process. I was, 1920, and that's the group that I was in. So I just kind of, as the highest ranking, just kind of became the teacher. I've been there long enough. I remember walking into the club one day, just as the kids class was starting, and I was late to teach the class, not knowing I was teaching it that day, because I didn't expect to be there for that class. I was just coming in a bit early for my class. As I'm walking in, my bag in hand, I'm still in my street clothes, and our instructor says, Thomas, by the way, hurry up, you're teaching the class. and I had to in the span of 5 seconds get into the mental space of teaching children, which I had never done before, and at the time didn't want to do. Frankly, didn't want to do it. Now I'm grateful.
That's a tough one. Like kids, teaching kids is rough because you have to keep them entertained constantly.
It can test your patience, but it's rewarding. There's times when I prefer teaching these classes to the adults. There's a lot of benefits to it that I found, not just in martial arts. I mean, a lot of the kids, they tend to look at you as a role model and as a guide for more than just martial arts. They come to you for things outside of that and for their lives in general. And just being able to be a positive influence for young developing children, and be able to, be that person that they look to for input sometimes, is a very rewarding thing. So I'm very grateful that I got thrown in the deep end. But yeah, like don't, if you're a new teacher in martial arts or in anything, don't undervalue or pay attention to your students and what they don't know that they're teaching you and what you don't realize they're teaching you.
Yeah.
Because there's
so kids are definitely teaching you patience and testing those limits and all that kind of stuff. And also, yeah, I guess like trying to keep it light and fun and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also I noticed, like, teaching a kids class, it teaches you to be a little more creative with how you're slipping in the information too, because it's not like you can just be like, here, do this thing, here's how you do it, now go. It's like they don't have the attention span for that. You have to kind of trick them, I guess, into learning that, and then you find more creative ways of getting that through.
Which carries over to adults too, actually.
Yeah, yeah, some adults. But like, I have to say though, my least favorite thing, like the thing that's rough for me as a teacher is, and like, I'll preface this by saying 99% of the time it's okay, but that 1% is difficult parents.
Yes.
That's like the worst thing. And a lot, like, no, pretty much every time it's totally uncalled for. They're just like being hard on their kid or on the situation for absolutely no reason, and it's just making my life as a teacher way harder than it needs to be, and it's slowing the progress down and all that kind of stuff.
Again, though, I keep flipping the coin around, but there's the parents that are too hard on their kids. There's also the parents that are over encouraging. And I want to point,
such as,
I don't like to call names, but I want to point that out too. That, like, we do this a lot. Like, we have, I guess you guys don't do it anymore since I left, but I used to run a black belt class at our school, which was what it became was a class for people going for their black belt tests and getting ready for black belt tests. And I was, because I have, our school in Winnipeg has a very good reputation for producing high quality black belts and high quality martial artists. I cared very much about our school's reputation, our instructor's reputation, my own reputation on the line, and the reputation of anyone else that came out of our school, whether they came out of the school as a color belt or a black belt. And so I was, I'm not going to say I was rough on people, but I was realistic. I was honest with everyone who came into my class. And that was a 3-hour class that I did. And everyone, I know
I thought those classes were fun, just so you know.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. But I mean, we had teenagers doing the class training for their black belt to adults. And for every one of them, I would point out, like, if they weren't, well, first of all, I would start the first class whenever I had new people coming in. I'd point out, like, we're all here to learn. This is a serious class. This isn't the 1-hour class, the normal, like, the week. I'm prepping you for a black belt test. I'm going to push you. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you what's up. I'm going to tell you what's wrong. And we did that even with color belt tests. Like kids would have to go or adults would have to go and ask all the black belts, am I ready to test? And I'm sure you have too. There's been a few times myself where I've told someone straight to their face, I'm sorry, you're not ready. And that's a real hard thing to say, especially to a kid who's just like wants to get the next color belt, and it's like, you're not ready.
Yeah, they don't realize a lot of the time that just putting the time in.
Right, and
it's like if you're not spending that time wisely and really trying to improve, then the time's wasted anyways. Like you might as well not even be there. And
that's where the over encouraging parents come in. They keep just push your kids, like encourage them. Absolutely, I love that, but don't overinflate what's not there. Don't tell them they're doing great when if they're not doing great. Tell them to work on it. Tell them what they are doing good, but tell them where the problems are. And I've had so many kids come to me and be like, well, mom and dad think I'm doing great. I'm like, well, mom and dad hasn't taken a class.
They don't know what's going on.
Yeah, like I've held the bag for your kicks. They ain't quite good.
If you know that you need to work on it, if you can take that kick to the face and not be fazed by it, then it's like, you need to work on your kick a little more.
Yeah, but that's the problem, because it's hard for me as a student or as a teacher having to tell anyone you're not ready. And I always tell them why. I'll say, here's what you got to work on, whether it's time outside of class or whatever it may be. But it's super hard when it's a kid, and I have to be like, listen, I know what mom and dad say, but I got to be honest with you. You need more practice. You need to do this. I don't want to I've never put anyone into a test. I've never told someone to test or, encourage someone to test if I didn't think they were ready. And there's people that don't listen to us and test anyways. That doesn't go well. But, whenever there's a color belt test, we don't let them do black belt tests. If that's what the black belt class became, was they had to get basically mine and yours and Andrew and Corinne. We had to kind of sign off on them in the black belt class to say, okay, we believe you're ready, therefore we'll let you talk to our instructor, Master Sunny, about doing the black belt test. It became that kind of gated system to make sure that you're not wasting everyone, including your own time. Don't encourage your kids, but in moderation. Careful how much you're doing that, because it's going to do just so much damage. And for teachers, that's hard.
Yeah, there have been some too at times that just like make like they and their kid think that just because I've been here X amount of years, like I can get my black belt now. And I'm like, no, it's like, especially at our school, it's like training for a marathon. It's different. It's different than the other tests. It's not a matter of, you learnt the next bit of curriculum and you move up to the next level. Like it's a totally different world. And yeah, it's not like a seniority thing. It's a like,
it's an earn it thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the parents need to be realistic about that to their kids too.
And for adults training without kids, I mean, be realistic to yourself. I've definitely gone to tests in both mindsets under kind of under appreciating, under pushing myself, and also inflating that ego a bit, because going through the whole spectrum of the color belts from white to black stripe, there's a fair amount of range in there, and that confidence level, it goes through peaks and valleys the whole time. So even as an adult going through that, just it's important to be able to take a step back and kind of outside of yourself and kind of look, try and look objectively, right? Don't, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have superb days, and somewhere in the middle is where you're actually at, I think.
I want to share one of my dear moments I had with an instructor last summer.
Sure.
as like we've both trained with Sifu Al Dacuscus a few times. He's like one of our grandmasters, like amazing guy, very, as a teacher, like a little scary.
It's
but
strange
like
seeing like a 70-year-old man put his foot over his head.
yeah, he's intense. He's really intense, and he knows his shit, and it's awesome. But yeah, it's so he was here doing a few seminars last summer, and yeah, and I did everything that week. Like, it was just like days of training in a row, and yeah, there was this moment I just kind of got, I was standing there overwhelmed. I was kind of like in that push myself kind of moment, and like, oh, get through this, and I was just kind of standing there, maybe feeling a little discouraged even, and he just called me over. He was like sitting on a chair in the corner, and he was just like, hey, come over here. And I was like, okay. And I went over there and sat next to him, and he's like, I want you to know that I'm really proud of you. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, epic teacher student moment for me. So yeah, and I like, he doesn't, I don't know, it's like you don't really get feedback, I know, I feel anyways, from him, that's like, unless it's just something constructive. You're like, oh, do this way, oh, you're missing this part, do this in this way. Like, it's not really, I don't know, he doesn't say stuff like that. And then he said something like that, and I was like, oh wow. So yeah,
it's very interesting training with him. He's the one, like the couple times that I've been training in Hawaii, it's him that I'm going to see. And the same thing, like you go there, you train, like when you're there, when the times I've gone there for that, I mean, I'm going there for the purpose of training. So the same thing, it's like every day, that's what I'm doing. I'm not going sightseeing. I'm getting up at 7 a.m. and meeting Sifu with the rest of the group. I don't even know where.
Your vacations make me sad.
My vacations make me sad.
You're not doing it right.
See, here's the thing with training with him. When you go to Hawaii, train with him, it is both really exciting vacationing as well as training, because he has this weird way of, like you're saying, like there's moments like that, right? He does take those time for the ones that are putting in the effort. Like he's done that for me too, where he's taking the moment with myself and with Andrew and Corinne and talked about things like that, and taking one-on-one time with us. And that's kind of the way he does there. That's how he kind of shows that he's taking note that you're doing well. But when you go train with him in Hawaii, because he lives there and he likes to show off the island, he does that where like every day you go and he'll take you to one beach and you train on one beach for a little while, and you get to kind of sightsee a little bit, and then for like 15 minutes, and then it's like, okay, go train. And then you kind of go to the next place and you sightsee for like 10-15 minutes, and it's like, okay, now go train. And then that's your whole day, is just moving from location to location, and you see things for about 15 minutes, and then you train the rest of the time you're there. So it
kind of like a photographer. Ooh, that's a nice backdrop, but to go train against, like, get over there.
That's exactly what it's like, and it's somehow keeps you invigorated and keeps you moving and energized to keep training. It gives you the breaks and the mental relief that you need. But yeah, it's training with him is really fun. It's an interesting event. It's really fun. It's always very enlightening, humbling, teaching or learning with him.
Let's talk about. I'd like to mention, since we're talking about teachers, I'd like to mention Manuel for a second. Back when he was teaching our kung fu classes on a regular basis. So he moved away, so that's why he's not doing that anymore. But I just remember that was I want to say the first time, but like, I don't know, it was just a whole new level of pushing myself physically, because he's so naturally good at physically demanding things. She's like very in shape, and while, like, when he's teaching, he's doing everything with us. So you're watching him and you spend the whole class trying to keep up, which never happens. But because you're trying to keep up, it's like he just pushes you in so many ways. Like, I just remember I just reached a whole new level of physical conditioning with him as a teacher. Yeah, it was really fun.
He's I should make sure he watches these because he'll enjoy this. But he's a very intense guy. He doesn't, he holds you to a high standard, I guess, and he knows that everyone's standard is different. Everyone's bar is different of what they can achieve at a given time. You can always increase that bar and achieve more, but at a set day, a set moment, I can get normally to here, so I can push myself to here. And he's aware that everyone's different, but he's going to hold everyone to a certain high standard. And he understands that we're doing this for real. We're pushing, we're getting hard, and there's one time I remember doing a class where one of the exercises was burpees, and he opened a whole new world of burpees to me that I simultaneously hate and love. I hate them because they're horrible. Burpees
we hate them because they suck.
Burpees in general.
No one likes a burpee.
Burpees in general suck. They're horrible, but these ones are even more so. I like them because of obviously the benefit I get from it. Because obviously doing them is going to make me better and all that junk. The process of doing these burpees is not great because it's holding an eskrima stick in your hands. And so you go down and do the push up, and then when the jump isn't just a jump, you're doing a jump and you're like jump roping over the stick while it's in your hands. So you can't let go of it. And I remember doing that, and I remember him showing us that, and just kind of taking a moment as I watch. He's about my height. He's about the same build as me. So very similar build, close to my height. And I remember just kind of watching him just bend his body into a ball and holding the stick in his hands, go down and like bring his knees up and feet over the stick and land on the ground, and watch that thinking like, this is the day I faceplant. That's
or this is how I'm gonna die.
This is
after all this martial arts. This is how I'm gonna die.
Yeah, this is the day where we need to have a camera set up. So I'm going to jump and just like spin in the air a couple times and just wham into the floor. And I didn't. Thank God. But
did you do it?
I did.
That's crazy.
I did out of fear. Out of fear of the faceplant, because
it's a good motivator. Fear is a good teacher.
It's a very good one. But that's the thing, is like looking at that being like, well, I mean, I'm not going to be the one that walks out of class because I'm too scared to do this. Like I'm not going to be that guy who's like, nah. Especially because, I mean, by that time too, I was third Dan already when he was doing that. So especially at that point, I'm like, I mean, I can't be the one to walk out of class. So there's the fear motivator of like, I mean, I'm the senior here. I gotta do this. Also, I don't want to fall on my face, so I need to do this right. Which it's a great motivator for anything. Like, it's that fear of falling on your face. But letting yourself fall on your face sometimes is great. I definitely have fallen on my butt and on my face, and just in general, training and allowing yourself to fall and get back up and learn why you fell is another great teacher. But
yeah, exactly.
Like, well, that didn't work. Wonder why.
Pain is also a good teacher.
Yeah, it is.
It's like if you get an injury, you have that constant memory, and now you're always keeping an eye out for it.
Yeah. You'll assess why you got that injury and not do that again.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. I also love that aspect of teaching. I'm not sure if you've ever heard this, but they say when you're teaching something, you will pick out the things, like when you're teaching and correcting someone, you will correct, or you'll see the things to correct that you yourself do. Right? You'll see the mistakes in others that are the mistakes that you do. So I've always found that
interesting.
it's I forget where I learned that. it's been so long now, but I've definitely noticed that it's true. The things that I've seen other people do, I know to correct them, and I correct them on it, and then I go train, and I deliberately pay attention to the things that I corrected others on, and notice like, oh yeah, I'm absolutely doing the exact same thing. It's a weird subconscious thing.
Like, yeah, and in the same family there, I guess I like to. I've definitely noticed that I like to put emphasis on perfecting areas that I personally find more important.
Oh, absolutely.
With certain students, like, no, you need to do this better and this better, and those things are always something that I personally do to, I don't know, help myself with that specific technique or form or kick, what have you.
It's I think another excellent argument for having multiple teachers or learning from multiple people, because everyone's got that thing that they really enjoy, that they really are super good at. So if you can take that time to, it really comes down to a lot of like, put your ego aside, just put it down. You don't need it for a while. And let someone else.
If you stick with that one, avenue, that one teacher, that one avenue of learning, then you're just gonna get this very narrow version of what you could be.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's gonna be very, very stale and one dimensional. Sifu Ron is always fun to have.
Yeah, he's awesome. I remember I took him to the museum here when he came here.
I was there with you.
You weren't at the museum.
Meadow Museum?
Yeah, I specifically remember because it was me and him, and I was scared because I was like, I've never been alone with him, and now it's going to be an extended period of time, and I'm freaking out. I have social anxiety like that.
I definitely have a picture of him on the bench with that pirate thing, unless you sent that to me.
I must have sent it because we were definitely alone.
Okay.
Because I was stressing about that, and then it was fine.
Okay, I had the picture.
Yeah, I took, because his big thing is like weapons training,
mm-hmm.
and we went to the museum, and it's our museum that I've been to 1,000 times, and we go in there, and he's teaching me about all the antique weapons in the display cases and all this, and he's like telling me I like actually learned things going to the museum for once.
Yeah.
But he was telling me about everything. It was hilarious.
I find it really funny too when you get Sifu Ron and Sifu Al in a room together, and they're just talking. It's fascinating, and it's fun to just sit and listen to them. And it's really funny because like I remember one time them talking about it, and Sifu Ron is Chinese, whereas Sifu Al is Filipino and Hawaiian, and Sifu Ron was commenting about how in Filipino martial arts, you typically start training with a weapon and then move to open hand techniques, whereas the Chinese style you start open hand and move to weapon techniques, and both of them went the opposite ways of that, where Sifu Al, being of Filipino descent, started with Chinese style and moved to Filipino, whereas Sifu Ron of Chinese descent went Filipino to Chinese. And I remember him talking about that, and that was the first time that I learned that history of those martial arts, just by listening to them and him commenting on that thing that he found funny, that they went opposite of that. It's just funny listening to when you get all these old grandmasters together, because they just love teaching and they just love explaining and talking about the history of things, and you just get them into a room and then just sit down and don't talk. Like just don't. Just let them keep talking. Don't
slowly turn your camera on.
Yeah. like don't talk unless they address you, because they've got so much that they just love to talk about and teach, and man, it's really fun just listening to them.
Maybe that'll be us one day.
I thought about that. I thought about someday, when we're all the new generation of old masters. You
mean this day right now? That's what we're doing right now. That was the joke.
Oh boy, I'm not ready for that. But yeah, there's so many interesting stories just to come out of that, and just listening to stories that don't sound relevant, it can teach you a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Some of them are just funny, but I think even the funny ones, you pay attention to kind of listen to it for more than what it is, and there's something there that you can pull away from it.
I need to dive into more history stuff because I'm bad like that, which I haven't, like, martial arts wise really, but like a little bit, which is weird because I really like studying history and that kind of thing, especially specific like as a filmmaker. I love, like, I took a history film course, I love that kind of thing, but yeah, I should do that more.
Yeah, I mean, like, for myself, I took pardon me, I studied Japanese language in university because it was interesting to me, and from there I did some Asian history, and I took that and kind of worked from that and studied martial arts history as well, and I do a lot of that on my own time, and I've got a few books on my bookshelf here of martial arts history that are just fascinating reads, and things you can find when you learn about it. And we should really do an episode on that. So I got some things that I find are interesting about how things have evolved from what they were to what they are now. And looking at the actual history of certain aspects, but it's fascinating stuff. And history itself, again, is another good teacher to look at that and say, well, why is a thing done the way it is? What's the reasoning behind this? What can I look from what has been done before me to further grow it in the future? Well, Sam, thanks for hanging out, talking martial arts with me, and thanks to everyone for listening.
Yeah, right back at you.
Like always.
If someone has a suggestion, if they want to hear about something, then please let us know. Comment.
Yeah, you can find us on Podbean, and you can find us on YouTube, and we are sorting out issues on our end just to get things up onto iTunes, and we'll be on Spotify as soon as we can. So those are in the works. Don't think you can comment on those, but there's also the Facebook page for High Frequency Kicks that you can find us on there. And on YouTube, you can also find links to our social media profiles if you want to follow on there and give us comments as well. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the podcast. We'll see you guys next time on High Frequency Kicks.
I did that before. We don't need 2 outros. Come on. Thank you for listening to the High Frequency Kicks podcast. Remember to subscribe on your favorite streaming service and give us a like.